Okay, this is the situation at the end of the third turn of the second age. Now, there's been a lot going on in this turn. Things are beginning to liven up as the realms get bigger and the amount of free space starts to contract. So you're getting conflicts starting to arise. Let's put it mildly. Let's have a look at the major impacts that are going on. Well, the first thing is that the Polish bot, seeing it's got a claim into Crimea and also through Crimea on its military target, launched an attack into this vassalized Ottoman Crimean. They conquered the whole of it at one point, but the Ottomans, by basically bankrupting themselves, created enough military to actually turn that around again. But even worse than that, what happened is the Ottomans then had to face a vassal uprising in that area, which they had to knock out and all again, and that's cost them virtually all their army. They're actually down to the bare bones. Ottoman's main problem is they were running a very expensive realm anyway, and because they'd had to spend so much suppressing this rebellion and fighting this war, they were very vulnerable to the fluctuating currency card which the English played, and that wrecked their economy. It absolutely wrecked it. Lost them another level of stability, and they had to go heavily into debt. Even clearing that debt at the start of this coming turn, their finances are not in a very good state. Until they got rebel provinces in Wallachia. They've got all the Crimean provinces in a state of unrest still. So, looking at it, their objectives this turn is just try and stabilise what's left of this of the economy and the political situation. Get your stability up. Try and reduce that debt here by trading, I would expect. Keep an eye out for the Poles coming back for another attempt at Crimea, because it's very likely that they will. Polish bot seems to be particularly aggressive towards this area. Other things we'd have to look at. Got to get rid of some of this unrest, particularly clear out these rebel cities here. So I predict that the Ottomans are going to find themselves in a period of consolidation. They're also scoring worse on the overall prestige chart. If you see them, they're quite a few points behind everyone else. I think they're about 10 points behind the next lowest scorer in terms of prestige. They've not scored many of their objectives. In fact, they've only scored one of their missions, and that's really gone against them. That's why they're so poor on the prestige scale. They've also, when they have tried to recover money through trading, these particular trade nodes and the combinations of the cities they actually own around them was not been good. It meant I think they had 3 failed trade attempts last term, where they ended up with a default 2 ducats, which is awful. If you look at the situation nearby them, they've got a very large Persian state here, and very large. I think these are Marmalit Egyptian state. I don't really know, but they're another big non-player. Well, these are a dynamic non-player realm. That's just a player realm, a non-player realm that's just appeared on the board through actual one of the event cards. So things aren't looking very good for the for the Ottomans at the moment, and I don't think they're going to get a lot better. Oh yeah, one thing there is there's a truce in place because in the end it turned out as a white peace between the Polish bot and the Ottomans. There's actually a truce in place, so that should relieve the pressure of the Poles, so they can't come back and have another crack at us this turn. So if we look at the next one, Castile. Well, Castile is now officially the Kingdom of Spain. They managed to vassalize the Aragon and all its associated provinces. Actually, should they? No, they shouldn't. I'm just thinking, should they have a vassal marker on there? And of course, give it the answer to that's no. Spanish, to a large degree, they're still ahead in the prestige race. They're one ahead in everyone else. They've had a little bit of a problem. They managed to get a foothold in the Spanish Netherlands, which they did historically. Flanders and Wallonia, as it's called here. But and they've, because of the Protestant, that's a Protestant area now. They've had some rebellions and religious problems. It's not really a good I don't know. It's not a good place to be fighting over, as far as I'm concerned. I'll be much more interested as the Spanish player on taking over Italy. They did do quite well in the fact that they've got Aragon and everything, but then the unruly vassal's effect on one of the cards turned up, and that threw Naples into a rebellion. Now they managed to suppress that by destroying the rebel army, but they've still got all the cities in Naples are actually in a state of unrest. In terms of money, yeah, again, they got hit really bad by the English playing the fluctuating currency card. They had to take on a lot of debt, and they've not got a huge amount here. I think they're pretty, in terms of the treasury, but they look pretty well placed in terms of their merchants. For actually being able to recover some money via trading this turn. They probably want to get these loans paid off as well. Now, one big issue here is the French bot managed to pick up a card that gave them a declaration of war against Milan. Now, Milan was a Spanish ally, but the Spanish actually had to say, no, we just haven't got any money and we're not in a position to defend Milan. So they lost prestige for that, and the overall effect is French have expanded into this area, Lombardy. So overall, with a stability of -1, a bit of a dodgy treasury, we're ahead in terms of prestige. Got quite a lot of cubes that we can play. The situation's looking favourable for the Spanish. They've really got to concentrate and get rid of this unrest in Naples over here. That should be a primary. Try and get your stability up again. Probably double up Navarre. It's a bit of a unfinished business sort of thing there, leaving that little state hanging around. generally trying to avoid a conflict with the French bot if we can. In terms of France, this is our first bot player. Yeah, we're gradually creeping up. So they're in the pack in terms of prestige. They've absorbed a lot of territory here. They managed to, as we said, they managed to get Milan through drawing at random a decent event card, as it turned out for them. They got a bit of unrest that they could do with getting rid of. They've got a claim, obviously got a claim here on Bordeaux. I suspect the bot will probably strike against that city fairly soon. Another bot has a problem with religious dissent. See, what's happened here is we had a big spread of Protestant religion into Central Europe, into northern France, and also into the Baltics. As you see that Denmark, Sweden, Norway are all Protestant now. You got Protestants now in control of Switzerland, the Rhineland, Westphalia, Netherlands, Flanders, Wallonia, Sienne, Brittany, Normandy, as well as the fact you have the Protestants in control of England, which was their last turn. So I think for the French bot's doing well, and I can't see that it's going to be under pressure. Certainly not from Spain at the moment. England just isn't interested in fighting on the continent. They've got a lot of objectives. They've spread out quite considerably into America. And also, if you're looking at that, you can see the Spanish spread into Mexico and the Caribbean. So the British goals tend to be more towards maritime empire, which is obviously historically what happened. So I don't see that being a problem to the French. I think they're in a good position as the bot goes. Depends how religious dissent and the Protestant Reformation weakens them. I don't really know at the moment. We look at the English, pretty much discussed them. They are a very stable regime, solid single religion. They played the fluctuating currency because they were the richest country last turn, so it didn't really do any damage to them. It got rid of a huge amount of money from them, but it did so much damage to their opponents that they were laughing. They've got by far the biggest navy at this particular point. They're certainly in a position with the number of cubes they've got to start making claims. And I'd be thinking in terms of spreading their influence into Africa and the Far East, maybe the Middle East, I don't know, but certainly spreading it around the globe a lot more. If we look at, we've got a dynamic player nation, Denmark there, which picked up a card that gave it large areas of Sweden and Norway. So that's quite a big dynamic realm there. Even though there's two different types of pink here, I haven't got enough pink counters for Denmark, so they're all actually the same state up there. If we look at Austria, now Austria, they got hit by a fluctuation currency, but nowhere near as bad as everyone else, because they weren't really exposed in terms of, they weren't trying to run a large military. They were well aware that Poland was busy fighting the Ottomans. So what they tended to do last term was convert some of these Orthodox areas into Catholicism. They're trying to stabilise the nation. They've had a lot of problems with stability, and also they've had problems getting decent event cards. The event card that would have been better for them would have embroiled them in a war with Venetia, which we decided wasn't a good one. So they didn't bother with that one in the end. I think they actually did bother. I think they took it because they wanted to avoid the bad effects of it, but they took the B option, which gave them something very, very minuscule in terms of the A option, embroiling them in a war that they couldn't really afford. So they're only been treading water, the Austrians. So if we look at Polish bot, as I described, it's been very aggressive in engaging in that war with the Ottomans, and I was quite surprised that the bot it had a bit of a struggle against the human player in the end, militarily. But it all depends on the cards and the situation. The last real bot player realm war was over here in Brittany, where the bot absolutely steamrolled the English player, but admittedly the English were busy conquering Scotland. So that's it, summing it all up. I can see a lot more conflict arising. We haven't had any more power struggles. I suspect the Protestant Reformation and the beginnings of the Counter Reformation are going to embroil large areas of this map in conflict. We've certainly got the only real areas now where you can expand into is this German area. There's some areas in North Africa you could have a go at. But otherwise, if you look around, there are either non-playable zones like this Russian stuff here, or there are large non-player realms or dynamic player realms holding sway. Right, that'll do for the summary for this turn. It's a bit of a long one.